They thought he was just another easy target, a quiet man, alone in a diner. But when the bikers pushed too far, they learned the hard way. Some fights are over before they even begin. The wind was sharp that afternoon as Darius rolled his truck into the gravel lot of Earl's Diner, a rundown stop just off Route 66, the kind of place where time dragged and strangers weren't always wanted. The D Open sign buzzed weakly behind the dusty glass, flickering just enough to prove the place hadn't shut down yet. A lonely gas station stood nearby, its pumps rusted and unused. Darius killed the engine, glanced at the diner, then grabbed his wallet and cap. Inside was exactly what he expected. Cracked, checkered floors. Vinyl booths splitting at the seams. A jukebox in the corner that hadn't worked in years. The smell of burnt coffee and old grease clung to the air. A waitress with tired eyes wiped down the counter, already clean, mumbling something to the cook behind her. The bell above the door jingled as Darius stepped in, loud enough to make heads turn, no smiles, no friendly nods, just stares. The kind you feel before you see them, wary, heavy, loaded with something unspoken. In the corner, a group of bikers in leather vests and dark sunglasses sat hunched over a table. Their laughter died the second Darius walked in. Unshaken, he adjusted his cap, kept his shoulders loose, and slid into a booth by the window. Old habits die hard. He always faced the exit. The waitress approached, her pen tapping nervously against her notepad. "What'll it be?" Her voice flat. "Cheeseburger, fries, coffee, black." Darius kept his tone quiet. She scribbled it down without looking at him, her eyes flicking toward the bikers. They were watching him now, like hawks circling prey. Darius didn't react. He just sat there, calm, tracing the rim of his coffee cup like the room around him didn't exist. But it did exist, and it was getting louder. One of the bikers, a big guy with a thick beard and ink-stained knuckles, leaned back in his chair, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Well, look at that. We got ourselves a tourist." The others chuckled, low and rough. Darius ignored him. Beard wasn't done. "Hey, buddy, you deaf? Or just rude?" The waitress came back with Darius's coffee, her hands shaking slightly as she set it down. Darius gave her a small smile. Thanks. This wasn't her fight. She didn't owe him anything. She hurried off. Darius took a sip. He didn't need to look up to know every eye in the place was on him now. The room had picked sides without him saying a word. Outside, a truck rumbled past, tires crunching gravel. Inside, the air grew thick. The quiet wouldn't last. Darius knew it. The tension was a held breath, a moment stretched too far. The bikers had stopped pretending, all eyes locked on him, waiting for a reaction he wouldn't give. Maybe he's shy. Beard sneered, grinning. Or lost. Ain't much for his kind out here. That did it. A dark laugh rolled through the group like a wave smashing against rocks. The diner wasn't big, but right then it felt like a cage. Darius took another slow sip of coffee. Unmoved, unbothered. If anything, he looked bored. His silence only made them angrier. The scrape of a chair cut through the silence. Beardman, Travis, shoved back from the table. His boots thudded against the floor as he swaggered forward, his presence like a storm rolling in. The other bikers leaned back, grins spreading. A show was coming. The waitress stood frozen behind the counter, eyes darting between Darius and the approaching threat. Travis stopped beside Darius's booth, close enough that the stink of sweat and cheap cigarettes clung to his leather vest. "Hey, I'm talking to you, tall boy." The word hung in the air, sharp as a knife. Darius didn't flinch, didn't even look up. He just set his coffee down gently. "Something I can help you with?" His voice was calm. Too calm. Not a challenge, not fear, just a simple question. But the way he said it, quiet and deliberate, made Travis pause. The biker's eyes narrowed. "You're sitting where you don't belong. Don't you know how things work around here?" Behind him, the others snickered. A wiry guy with greasy hair barked, Show him, Travis. Teach him some manners. Travis. A fitting name for a man who needed to prove himself. Darius exhaled, barely a sound. I'm just here for lunch, that's all. The calmness pissed Travis off. He wanted a reaction, something to justify what came next. Be a mespint. His fist slammed the table, rattling the salt shaker. I don't think you heard me, a friend. Darius finally looked up, their eyes locked, and in that second, something shifted. No anger in Darius's gaze, no fear, just stillness. The kind that doesn't bend, doesn't break. It unsettled Travis, though he'd never admit it. A beat passed. Back off, Darius said softly. Not a plea, not a threat, a fact. Travis snorted, covering his unease with bravado. Or what? The diner went dead silent. Even the cook stopped flipping burgers. Then Travis's patience snapped. You're going to learn respect today. He lunged, grabbing for Darius's collar, and Darius's hand moved, faster than a snake. He caught Travis's wrist mid-air, grip like iron. The biker froze, stunned. Don't, Darius said, still quiet. But there was an edge now, a warning. For a heartbeat, Travis hesitated. The other bikers watched, waiting, egging him on. With a snarl, Travis yanked his arm free and stumbled back, flexing his hand. Think you're tough, huh? We'll see about that. He turned to his crew. Get up, boys. Chairs screeched. The air turned thick. 5 bikers rose, cracking knuckles, rolling shoulders, grinning. Darius stayed seated, watching. No fear, no rage, just that impossible calm. The waitress grabbed the diner phone, trembling. Don't! Travis cut her off with a glare. Put it down! She shrunk back, helpless. Travis turned to Darius, smug. 2 choices, Counts, pal. Walk out that door now, or we take this outside. Darius didn't move, didn't blink. He set his coffee cup down with a near-silent click. I'd rather finish my lunch. Travis grinned, like he'd won. Fine. We'll do it here. The bikers closed in, forming a half-circle around the booth. They thought they had him trapped, thought numbers mattered. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The diner had become a stage, every customer a captive audience. No one breathed, no one spoke. Even the clink of forks had stopped. The bikers loomed, their shadows swallowing Darius whole. Travis cracked his knuckles, his smirk more forced now. Last chance, tough guy. Walk out now before we put you down. Darius didn't blink. No shift in posture, no tensing muscles. He looked almost bored, and that made Travis furious. You just don't get it, Travis spat. Then he lunged. To everyone else it happened in slow motion. To Darius it was instinct, like breathing. He didn't flinch, didn't shuffle, just moved, precise as a blade. One fluid motion, slid out of the booth, caught Travis's wrist mid-swing, redirected his momentum. The biker stumbled forward, off balance. Then Darius twisted his arm behind his back and drove him face first into the table. Thud. Travis's chest hit the laminate. The diner shook. One down. The other bikers froze. Darius released Travis, letting him crumple to the floor with a groan. He turned to the rest, voice calm but firm. You don't want this. Almost like advice. But bikers don't back down, not with an audience. The wiry one charged next, yelling, fists swinging wild. Darius sidestepped like water around a rock, then drove an elbow into his gut. The man wheezed, folding over as Darius used his own momentum to send him crashing into a chair. 2 down. The last 3 moved together, bravado cracking into panic. Too late. The biggest grabbed Darius's shoulder. Mistake. Darius trapped his arm, swept his legs and dropped him hard. Before the man could react, Darius knelt, knee pressing into his spine. Stay down. The biker went still, gasping. 3 down. Another came from behind, swinging a chair, sloppy, desperate. Darius ducked, ripped the chair from his grip and shoved him into a booth. He collapsed like a sack of flour. 4 down. The last biker stood frozen, hands trembling. His eyes darted between his crew, bruised, broken, humiliated, and Darius, who hadn't even sweated. Darius tilted his head, a silent question. "You done?" The man bolted. The door's bell jangled wildly as he fled. 5 down. The diner held its breath. Darius exhaled, adjusted his cap, and surveyed the damage. Travis groaning over the table. The wiry one slumped against a chair, the rest strewn across the floor like discarded trash. Travis lifted his head, pain and disbelief in his eyes. Darius met his gaze. "I told you to back off." The silence was deafening. But the fight wasn't what people would remember. It was what came next. The waitress stood frozen, hand still on the unused phone. The cook gaped through the kitchen window, spatula dangling. Darius straightened, breathing steady, posture relaxed, like he'd just tied his shoe. Travis pushed himself up, pride more bruised than ribs. "What the hell? Who are you?" Darius looked down at him. No smirk, no gloat. "Just a guy getting lunch." Travis glared, bloodshot. "You ain't normal. What are you?" Around them, the diner's stares weren't fear, but awe. Darius sighed. "You don't want to know." The wiry biker coughed. "Military or something?" No answer. Darius walked back to his booth. His plate waited, burger and fries untouched, coffee half full. He picked up a fry, took a bite. As if the last 5 minutes never happened. The waitress finally stirred, stepping forward like she was approaching a storm. "Sir, are you okay?" The waitress's voice trembled. Darius looked up with a soft smile. "I'm fine, ma'am." She blinked, stunned by his politeness after what she'd just witnessed. Her eyes darted to the bikers sprawled across the floor, then back to him. "I'll get you a fresh burger." "No need," Darius said, tapping his plate. "This one's just fine." At the far booth, an old farmer with leathery skin muttered, "Ain't never seen nothing like that before." Darius ignored the whispers spreading through the diner. He knew what they were thinking. A calm man in a loud world stands out. People remember that. He reached into his pocket, placed bills under his plate, and stood. His boots were the only sound as he walked toward the door. "Wait!" The waitress called after him. "Who are you really?" Darius paused, hand on the door. He held her gaze a heartbeat too long. "Just a guy who knows how to finish his lunch." The bell jingled softly as he stepped outside. Gravel crunched under Darius's boots as he crossed the parking lot. The biker who'd fled earlier stood frozen by his motorcycle, mouth agape. He didn't speak, just shuffled aside as Darius climbed into his truck. The engine roared to life, shattering the stillness. One glance in the rear view, the diner's faces still pressed against the glass, watching him disappear down the empty road. The bikers would recover, bruises fade, but the lesson? That would stick. Never judge a man by his silence. In the days that followed, the story grew legs. The farmer. Boy barely moved, took him apart like he was butter in toast. The waitress, wide-eyed. I asked who he was. Know what he said? Just a guy getting lunch. Travis Way stopped bragging at bars. When teased, he'd flush crimson and mutter, "Forget about it." But he never would. None of them would. That day gutted their arrogance, taught them real strength isn't in numbers, it's in the choice not to use it. Meanwhile, miles down Route 66. Darius pulled into a gas station. A teen cashier with dangling headphones eyed him. "You headed somewhere important?" "Just passing through," Darius said, tossing bills on the counter. The kid squinted. "You military or something?" A half-second pause. A shrug. "Just a guy getting water." As the truck vanished down the highway, the cashier stared after it, feeling something he couldn't name. Respect? Or, for the man who proved, true power doesn't shout. It doesn't need to.